It's account review time! Hey everyone, Shark here, and we got some overwhelmingly positive responses for account reviews. There are literally hundreds of submissions and it will take me a really long time to get through them all, so please be patient. In the meantime, make sure to watch these videos because even if it takes a while for me to get to your specific account, the information here is still valuable to understanding how to build characters and how to put a team together. And obviously, since there are a ton of accounts to review, you can check the other account review videos that I'll have in a special playlist for an even better understanding of how to build characters, teams, and progress your account. With all that being said, it is a lot of work to review literally hundreds of accounts, so if you could like the video, it would really mean a lot to me. It takes hours and hours of work for me, but all I need is a quick tap of that thumbs up button from you. And now that you've liked the video, let's jump into the account reviews. Alright, let's see what we got here. Just general advice to make the character stronger. Yoimiya, Nahida, Wanderer, Raiden, Zhongli, Tighnari, Albedo. Okay, let's grab your UID here and go over to Enka and see what we've got going on. Hello, Enka? There we go. Alright, Yoimiya, Zhongli, Albedo, Nahida, Tighnari, Raiden, Wanderer, Mona. So you really don't want me to focus on Mona that much, but pretty much everyone else. Okay. Honestly, it doesn't really look like you need any help. It looks like you know what you're doing, but you may just need a few tweaks here and there. Two things I would change on your Yoimiya. I would give her a pyro damage goblet, and I'd also probably give her a crit rate headpiece. You've got a really nice Lava Walker's flower, but you really do want pyro damage for Yoimiya, and your crit rate is only 30 if you did have a crit rate headpiece here, with maybe some crit damage, attack, energy recharge, any of those useful stats for her. This would pop this up to 61, it would lower this by 60, but you'd be way more consistent. And there's just sort of a general rule of thumb. It doesn't work always, but if you have a crit damage weapon, which you do with a Thundering Pulse, you typically will go with a crit rate headpiece. If you have a crit weapon, you typically go with a crit damage headpiece. And if you have neither, you typically prioritize crit rate up to about 50% or so, and then crit damage after that. But honestly, your Yoimiya is pretty much done. She just needs a few tweaks here or there, but that's it. Now let's move on to Zhongli. Alright, we've got Tenacity of the Millilith with Favonius Lance and 38,000 health. Looks pretty good. Alright, one thing I would probably change or recommend here is changing his Geo Damage Goblet to maybe an HP Goblet. It rolled a lot of EM, which is not really going to be very helpful. It's only going to make Crystallized Shield stronger, but Zhongli's shield is already stronger than a Crystallized Shield, and you don't really want to build EM on Geo characters anyways. It also looks like he's more of a support role with the Fav Lance and the really high HP instead of like a sub DPS Zhongli, and because he's built with more HP than like actual damage stats, you typically don't want to like use his burst or use him on field that much anyways. It's kind of a DPS loss if you do that. So I would just give him some sort of random HP goblet that has a lot more crit rate so you can proc the Favonius Lance more frequently and get the particles for your entire team. And an HP Goblet will make his shield stronger, but he's already plenty tanky with 38,000 health, so you really don't need to worry about that. The reason an HP Goblet is nice is because it's not only useful for Zhongli, but the drop rate of HP Goblets is significantly higher than something like an Elemental Damage Goblet. Meaning that it's also easier to get an HP Goblet with a bunch of crit rolls than it is to get a Geo Damage Goblet with a bunch of crit rolls. So that's it for Zhongli. Give him an HP Goblet for more shield strength and make sure it has a lot of crit rate so you can proc your Favonius passive more frequently. Now let's take a look at Albedo. Let's see, you've got 4-piece Husk, you've got the Cinnabar Spindle, the event weapon, 44 crit rate, 131 crit damage, 2k defense. Very nice. I don't think you have to change anything here. Only thing I would say is make this weapon level 90, but really that's it. That's basically the only thing you can improve. Your artifact substats are really nice, so if you level up his weapon to 90, Albedo will be completely done. Oh, wait a second, I missed something. I thought this was a defense sands. This is an attack sands. I would go for a defense sands for Albedo. They are extremely common. I have way too many of them, but honestly, if you're trying to go for it, Genshin will probably be like, LOL, we're not going to give you a good defense sands. But you do want to run a defense sands on him, and you do want the crit rate and crit damage, energy recharge, all that stuff, because you could push this even higher. With the defense sands, you're probably looking at around 2.3, 2.4k defense. So that's what you have to do to finish off Albedo. Get his weapon to 90 and get a good defense sands that is equivalent or roughly equivalent to your attack sands. Next, let's move on to Nahida. Alright, sacrificial fragments, 4-piece deepwood, and 933 EM, very cool. 8.5 crit rate though, and 106 crit damage, interesting. Triple EM main stats, honestly pretty good rolls, but there are a couple pieces you can replace. The first one is your headpiece. I would have probably not even rolled this because I saw defense, energy recharge, flat HP, maybe another flat defense, and at that point I'd be like, okay, this piece is basically dead. I'd want to go for an EM headpiece with at least crit rate on it. But you have a lot of EM, and with leveling up the sacrificial fragments even further, you're going to have a lot more, so you can even drop this entirely for a crit rate headpiece if it has better substats than this. Because if you leveled up your sacrificial fragments to level 90, this would become 221, which would be about 40 more, 39 more elemental mastery. That would push this up very close to being nearly 1,000, which would give you about 24 crit rate because of Nahida's passive on her skill, which would make this roughly 32% crit rate, but that's still a little low. But if you were to give her a crit rate helm and level the sacrificial fragments up, you're losing about 140 elemental mastery here, so this would be about 790. But you're gaining 31 crit rate and hopefully some other good stats, maybe even some EM, so you might get a little more there, but you may get some more crit damage, you may get some energy recharge, you may get some attack percent. So you're trading off 140 elemental mastery for 31 crit rate. But because of Nahida's passive, you'd be gaining about another 17-ish% crit rate on top of that for her skill. So essentially you're rebalancing her stats from about 970 elemental mastery when you level up the sacrificial fragments and about a 32% crit rate to about 790 elemental mastery when you level up the sacrificial fragments and about an effective 57-58% crit rate. And the second one ends up being way more consistent. So I would look for a deepwood crit rate headpiece for her and look for something that has EM, energy recharge, attack, crit damage, all those good things. But honestly, if you could just get something that's got something more than just defense rolls and flat HP rolls and flat defense rolls, it'll be better. The other thing that you might be able to get as well is another flower. You might be able to get one that has more rolls into EM, maybe more rolls into crit damage, maybe more rolls into crit rate or energy recharge, instead of basically being 2 stats that are actually useful for her, and then this flat attack, which isn't that good. You might get a 3-line artifact, and since flowers are always static with flat HP, you can get better substats on these because you don't have to worry about the main stat. So to improve your little Dendro baby, I would first get these sacrificial fragments to level 90, and then I would look for a crit rate headpiece with some better substats, and a good deepwood flower with some better overall substats, hopefully a 3, potentially 4-line artifact as well. Now let's move on to Tighnari. Skyward Harp, level 70, 4-piece deepwood. Okay, I see some things we can improve here. His artifact substats and rolls and everything, they're really good. However, there is a better set for him, and that would be the 4-piece Wanderer's Troop. Now you want someone on a team with Tighnari to run Deepwood, but if you don't have anyone, then you want him to run it. However, it's better to have some other support with Deepwood and have him with a 4-piece Wanderer's Troop. He not only really appreciates the 4-set bonus, but the 2-piece bonus with the extra 80 EM is also really nice. You also want to give him a Dendro damage bonus goblet and an EM Sands if you have one that has pretty good substats. Tighnari really does appreciate EM, not quite as much as Nahida, but any Dendro character that's going to do on-field damage really does like EM a little bit more than they like attack typically. The damage bonus you get from spread is actually higher than melt or vaporize, not quite as high as transformative reactions, but because the scalings are higher, you typically want to run a little more EM on a Dendro character than you would like a cryo or a pyro character that's doing like melt or vaporize. So while Tighnari's artifacts look really good, I would probably swap to different artifact set altogether. And as I say that, I just feel the pain of trying to farm a 4-piece Wanderer set. I hope you have a bunch of good pieces lying around. If not, just save any good Wanderer's pieces you get from fighting bosses or whatnot and just slowly upgrade Tighnari over time, because he's pretty good as he is now. Also make sure to level your Skyward Harp to 90. That's what I would prioritize first. Don't worry about the artifacts so much. Those can come later. Skyward Harp to 90. That's your first priority, since getting his weapon to 90 will almost always be less resin used and less time used than trying to get a whole nother 4-piece artifact set. Alright, so there's your nice fox boy. Let's move on to Raiden. Alright, let's take a look at her. She's got the catch, 4-piece emblem, electro damage, crit damage headpiece, attack sands. Everything here looks pretty good. Two things I would recommend if you have them. If you have an energy recharge sands, it doesn't have to be onset. It could be an offset one that has better rolls than this. I would give her an energy recharge sand, which would pump this up to about 280. And then if you have an attack goblet that has better rolls than this, you can give her an attack goblet. So like an emblem onset attack goblet and maybe an offset energy recharge sands with like a double crit that has really nice rolls. I would swap those pieces around for her. Raiden's one of the few characters where if you build her with the catch and electro damage goblet isn't necessary on her, you can run an attack goblet if it has better substats. But that's only if you're running an energy recharge sands on her. Remember, Raiden not only does more damage in her burst, the more energy recharge she has, she also fills the team's energy up a little bit more, and she gets electro damage bonus as well. So basically, the more energy recharge Raiden has, the better she does overall. The other reason I might want to swap some artifacts around is because your crit rate is a little bit low. I would love to see this be at least 40%, maybe a little bit higher, maybe 50% or so. You do get some extra crit rate on her burst from the catch, but 26 even with the extra 12% you're getting from here is still a little low. But considering that, your Raiden actually looks really nice, so let's move on to your Wanderer, which is the last character that you wanted me to take a look at. Alright, 60, 171, 160 ER, Desert Pavilion. He's got Animo Damage bonus and Wood Sith. Okay. Easiest thing for you is to get the Wood Sith to level 90. That's going to give him more crit damage and a higher base attack. I would say that would be your first priority. Second priority I would say would be ascending him. That'll give him a little more crit rate. And after that, I think honestly your Wanderer is pretty much done. You have a really good attack sands right here. Your feather, your flower, these are all pretty decent. Your animo damage goblet is pretty good too. And your headpiece is pretty nice as well. If you did want to farm artifacts for him, the easiest one to replace would be your flower. Flowers and feathers are usually the easiest places to get and or replace because they always roll with flat HP or flat attack in the case of the feather, and you have a lot of energy recharge on him. You could drop some of this because he's an on-field character and he gets a lot of his own particles. So if you found a flower that has more attack percent, more crit rate, more crit damage, something like that, you could replace this one right here. Other than that, your Wanderer's pretty much done. I mean, your characters all look really, really good. There's just a few improvements you can make on them here or there, and really just pick any character you like the most and want to work on and focus on them. You're definitely not in a bad position. You don't have any characters you have to fully commit to or fully build. It's just one piece here, one tweak here, level up this weapon here, something like that. Overall, very nice, James. Just make a few tweaks and you'll be swimming pretty.